Howdy, folks. Welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Tuesday, August 20th, 2019. I have the very distinct honor and great privilege of welcoming back a gentleman who's been instrumental in the growth and development of the Daily Coin. He was an early mentor to me and what the directions that I've been moving. I have hold this gentleman in very high regard. Love his mind. Love the fact that the way that he approaches life, the way that he approaches investing, and the way that he approaches you as well, because he respects you as much as I do. And there's not enough that I can say about him, but I am going to say this. He is a self-made millionaire, a full-time skeptic of conventional thought, and a proud father of three. He is the co-founder of FutureMoneyTrends.com, which is letting the cat out of the bag, which with nearly 150,000 subscribers is the most widely recognized online authority in investment ideas and economic advice. He's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, on ABC World News Tonight, and on Russia Today TV. Daniel correctly predicted the collapse of the Lehman Brothers, AIG, and Washington Mutual on Vision Victory, the YouTube channel he launched in 2007, and which now has had more than 13 million views. And of course, I'm speaking of Mr. Daniel Ameduri, and you can find all of Daniel's great work over at FutureMoneyTrends.com. Daniel, I'm so glad to have you back on the Daily Coin.
Well, thank you so much. And when I have my 40th birthday party, I want you to MC it with that intro right there. Thank you so much. I love you, man. And you have a great channel. And I'll never forget when I met you in New Orleans years ago now,
Yep.
like 4 or 5 years ago. And everyone was drinking coffee and sitting down, and you were over there working. You were getting as many interviews as you could for your subscribers. And that ultimately is fundamentally the most important thing about any business or hobby business. I know this is a labor of love for you. You have to over deliver and give people incredible value, and that's exactly what you do.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say, and I mean every word that I said. You've been a great inspiration for me, and it's wonderful. But you are now the author of a great new book that's coming out. I'm in the middle of reading it right now, and it's called Don't Save for Retirement, a Millennial's Guide to Financial Freedom. We're going to get into that and some of what you are trying to share with the world. And I want to start, Daniel, with 401ks. We're told all our lives that 401k, this is the way to retire wealthy and to be this and to be that, and put all your money and put all your retirement savings into the 401k. My understanding, though, is a little different, and I know yours is quite different. But isn't a 401k was never designed as a wealth increasing instrument, was it? Or did I misread that?
No, it wasn't. And it's funny, they actually sell it. I recognize this at a young age. I think I was 15 or 16, and they told me that if you put your money in the 401k, you defer the taxes, and then you can withdraw them at the lowest tax bracket. And even as a teenager in high school, it's like, wait a minute, there's no way I'm going to be in the lowest tax bracket when I'm 65. I'm going to be rich, right? Why
Right.
would I target to be in the lowest possible tax bracket? And frankly, at this point in time, the 401k hasn't worked out. So it was an experiment. I know a lot of people think that Adam and Eve had 401ks, but it was an experiment. The entire retirement thing is actually an experiment. And I believe it's a failed experiment, especially when you consider that the baby boomers who had one of the best setups with the stock market, the bond market, the housing market, and it hasn't worked out. There's many baby boomers that aren't successfully retiring. A lot of them, actually, more than half. And even the ones that did, they typically lived like peasants with high income. And now they're living in a scarcity mindset, even though they did make it to the retirement goal. But the 401k was passed with legislation in the late 70s. It was really introduced to most employees. in the 1980s, along with the IRA. But let's just take the fundamental reason for doing it, which most people would say the taxes. Well, think about it. We have the lowest taxes right now in about the last 100 years. You can go to a small part of the 1980s then you go all the way back to 1931 to see taxes this low. So you are deferring paying the lowest taxes in the last 75, 80 years in exchange to gamble, to speculate on what you will owe the IRS, what you will owe this mafia organization and a country that has $22 trillion in debt. And let's be real, in 10 years, 20 years from now, you have to ask yourself, do you think taxes are going to be higher or lower? If you think they're going to be higher,
Exactly.
then pay the damn tax right now,
Right.
and don't defer it. It doesn't do anything for you. So I would suggest people not contribute to 401ks because you have to pay a penalty to get that money. There are so many more investments to do. And honestly, at this point, I think it's obvious to everybody 401ks and all these retirement vehicles, it's simply for a way for Wall Street to transfer the money from the middle class to them. I mean, I forget which author asked it, but I think the book is like titled "Where Are All the Clients' Yachts?"
Exactly. That's a great question. Where are all the clients' yachts? Oh, they don't have them because the Wall Street brokers have them.
Exactly.
It's incredible. I mean, that was what you said about the taxes. That's what woke me up. Is like, wait a minute, taxes are not going down; they're going to go up. And then, when I get ready to retire, they're probably going to be a lot higher. And even though I'm quote deferring paying my taxes, I still got to pay them. So, which rate do I want to pay? Do I want to pay today's rate or do I want to pay tomorrow's unknown rate? And now that I know a lot more about investing and what these criminals on Wall Street are doing, then I have a much better approach to the whole thing. And before we go any further, Daniel, are you allowed to give financial advice?
I'm not legally giving anybody financial advice, so
Okay.
there is a disclaimer in the book. I'm not a financial advisor. But here's the funny thing: if you are a financial advisor, you're actually not publicly allowed to give financial advice. If you ever interview Rick Rule, he actually can't give you a stock pick. Everybody who doesn't have that credential has freedom of speech. So it's kind of backwards of the way the world works. You would think guys like Rick Rule would be able to give stock picks, and not everybody, but everybody else can, except for the most qualified person I know to give a stock pick, which is probably Rick Rule.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so we're not offering any financial advice. These are
No.
just things that we have observed and things that we have learned over the years. And in particular, what you've learned, Daniel, because you've taught me a lot. So, and it seems, Daniel, that over the years, I've encountered a great many people that believe gold and silver are some type of get rich vehicle. And it's actually how I got into the metals in the first place. I looked at the gold to silver ratio, and it was at 42 at that point, which sounds like a dream right now. But
Yeah.
I thought, well, if I buy a bunch of silver right now, it's at 42 to 1, and it goes back to the quote historical norm, end quote, of 16 to 1. Well, I'll make a lot of money and I could sell it. I didn't know anything at that time. So that's what got me into it. But my thinking has turned 180 degrees from where it was when I first got in. And a lot of people are still of this mindset, even though a lot of the YouTubers and you and I and a great many other blog writers, including myself and including you, have abandoned this idea altogether. Realistically, Daniel, what role should the precious metals play in a person's long-term financial goals?
For long term, I think it's real money. It's a store of value. The volatility of it is, um, short term. The fact of the matter is with everything that's going on around in the world with negative interest rates, which is basically central banks defaulting, and the bond market. If you look at that alone is reason enough to own some gold. These fiat currencies are clearly circling the drain, all fighting over who's going to be more worthless and devaluing themselves. To the point where we're in a situation where I think gold will have a very significant role, along with some of the cryptocurrencies, perhaps, but mainly gold, as far as a cornerstone of an economic system that may happen in 10, 15 years from now. But as far as personal portfolios, I own a lot of gold. I own a lot of silver, physical metal. But just keep in mind, I don't look at gold as an investment. I look at more of as an insurance policy against everything else I'm involved in. And the reason why is because gold, let's be real. Let's say you're treating gold as an investment. If gold went to 2,500, I want you to think about the significance of that move. Or let's say even 3,000 because it's the 1,500 right now. If gold doubled, went to $3,000. Think of all that would happen and what would be happening around the world for that to even happen. I want you to really ask yourself, is doubling your money going to change your life? Is it going to do anything for you? Probably not. Which it's fine. But consider that gold is something you can protect yourself with and hedge yourself with. And if everything else does go to hell, gold's still going to have some value on the other side of that. But I don't look at it as an investment anymore either. If I want to speculate and I'm going to say gamble, I'll buy some mining shares, and I'm certainly involved in those activities. But is anybody who's bought a mining stock in the last 10 years? Mining stocks are married to the gold price. I don't care if they have the best management team in the world and Eric Sprott's the CEO. It doesn't matter. They're married to the gold price. So, unless you're in a gold bull market, you shouldn't be even owning those stocks right now.
Yeah, and you touched on one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and it ties into the mining stocks and you also touched on IRAs and their vehicles. I'm sure you're familiar with the IRA LLC, and
Mhm.
that's private that I control. And what are your thoughts on the IRA LLC for precious metals or real estate, or one of what I believe to be one of your favorite investments, or the mining stocks? I mean, is an IRA LLC a good investment vehicle, or is it the same as a 401k with a different face?
I think it's almost the same thing with a different face, but I would consider the Roth IRA or the Roth
LLC?
yeah, IRA, because that is you paying the lowest tax in the last 75 years, locking that in. And then the gains are all tax free on withdrawal. I mean, that is a fairly good deal. The only thing that I don't like about it is you don't have access to your money until you're 57 and a half. Now, if you're 50 years old, that's not a bad deal. But if you're 20 years old, look, laws change, rules change, financial rules change. But I do like that idea that you are in more control. I think another name for them, people call them solo IRAs and solo 401ks now, where you have that check writing ability to buy investments, even get into like buying rental properties or buying precious metals with these vehicles. I do like the Roth aspect of it, and those are simply ones where you're not doing the tax deduction, you're paying the tax, and then everything on the withdrawal is tax free, which in my opinion is a much better deal. But again, I wouldn't go all in on it just because I want to have things that pay me right now. I want to enjoy the dividends and the fruits of my labor in my 30s and 40s and 50s.
Yeah, because you've got more countries to see. I
Yes,
mean, you've only been to 18, right?
I've taken the kids to 18 countries in the last 2 years. We just got back from Japan, literally, and prior to that, we sailed the Atlantic to get to Barcelona, visited Israel, and then went and had some fun in Kenya.
Nice. See, that's what happens when you're a self-made millionaire. You can do those kinds of things. And I tell you, Daniel, the story, the beginning of the book is just incredible because it just paints this picture of what America looks like as far as from a financial aspect. I mean, it really does. Your story really is one of those truly inspired American success stories. I mean, you really are, and it's such an honor to be able to call you a friend and to be able to have this conversation with you because of what you've been able to accomplish. I mean, in chapter 3 of the book, you talk about saving money, and early on in the book, you discuss how your near bankruptcy experience with your wife begging you not to do it. I mean, you described that, and that's one of the things that really that I love is that you give your testimony. And I believe you said that this was one of the most stressful parts of your life. And when you talk about making cuts to your budget, I mean, what does that really look like? I mean,
You know,
go ahead.
first of all, yeah, that moment in the bankruptcy attorney's office was a defining moment for me. I'll never forget that. For your listeners, Rory, we set up futuremoneytrends.com/save. It actually gives them the first chapter and that intro. If they'd like to just see that intro, I think that is something I would love to share with them, and it's totally free. And when my wife and I needed to cut, I mean, forget about investing. We were just trying not to be poor, and we had to cut. And I'd Google on how to save money. It was always the same recycled garbage about switching your credit cards and switching your bank to save on your checking fees. And I'm like, man, I need to slash this thing with a machete. I need like a logger cutting something down. I need to really cut to the marrow. And so the first thing we did, and I bet for most people this is true, is move. Now you can move 20 minutes away if you're, let's say a Los Angeles police officer and you need to be near LA. Okay, you can't move far, but you can still move 20, 30 minutes, and every 10 minutes on that freeway you'll save another few $100 on rent or mortgage. But my wife and I we moved to the desert of California, slashed our expenses 50%,
Wow.
really lived below our means. We purchased a house and we focused on paying it off aggressively by saving so much money on, we got rid of the gym memberships and started exercising. We stopped eating out. We did some things that are probably sound unacceptable to a lot of people. So I'm not telling everybody to do this. It's just what I did. We had two dogs that had medical bills regularly. They were only 7 years old, but we loved them. We found them a great home with somebody who could afford them, and they had a very good home, but we got rid of our pets. It's just, that's extreme. But we were very serious because we had an infant. Our son had just been born. We really wanted to do this. We're like, hey, let's do this. Let's not let this go just because I made a mess of things with foreclosures and the housing crisis. I was like, let's focus on how do we rebuild and saving money. And later on, even when we were financially independent, totally declared financial independence with our passive income paying for all of our bills, we moved to Texas. And even then, we purchased a beautiful home that was one times. It was equal to our annual income. So even being financially independent, we still made very frugal decisions. And I think that's something that people, before you try to get rich or try to make money, make sure your lifestyle is sustainable. And if you really want to do this and get serious about it, consider making 1 to 3 years of sacrifice and really cut back.
That's one of the things that I keep trying to approach my wife with is the sacrifice. Let's cut everything, like you said, to the bone. Let's don't do anything other than get our situation under control. Get rid of the mortgage. We don't have any credit card debt, which is uh, that's something that I've been very adamant about. That the only debt that we have is the mortgage, but I really want to get. I've been trying to get her on board with that, and she doesn't. She likes it. She likes having a mortgage. I don't know why, but she sees it as something that's positive, and it's like, no, it's not positive. There's no aspect of this that's meaningful to our life at all. None. And she can't seem to wrap her head around that idea. So it's it's not. I'm going to say that my wife is probably in the boat with most of the people than with where you're at, where you guys were at, when you started this venture. Or am I wrong? I mean, are you finding that there are more people that are like, yeah, let's buckle down and get rid of everything and just live a simple life for the next 3 years and deal with everything, make as drastic an impact on any debt or life change that we can. What's your experience with that?
For the millennials, it's happening and it's a trend.
Really, that's great.
For the millennials, you're seeing them now. They're even overcorrecting. There are these people called minimalists where they literally own nothing. I'm not advocating for that. There are people who live in like 300 square foot closets and stuff. I mean, I'm not advocating for that, but certainly the millennials are they have adopted the mobility, and they are the generation of Uber and Netflix. Largest video streaming company. Doesn't really own a lot of videos, a lot of content. They do own some, of course, but Uber, largest vehicle company, doesn't own any cars. Many people are renting or sharing different services. So they do have an advantage in the sense that for all the negative things you hear about the millennials, they also have some great opportunities. Let's be real. You can start a business for $10 on GoDaddy now. You can create a podcast. You can create a YouTube channel. You can create a blog. You can do how-tos on your favorite hobby. There's so many ways for millennials to make money. But yes, you're right about the normalcy. People believe it's normal to have a 5 to 7 year auto loan. People believe it's normal to have a 3 decade mortgage and to buy way more house than they need or can afford because of those low rates and the mortgage that is freely available to them. So that is definitely a normalcy bias in the sense that a lot of people look to their left and look to their right. Well, hey, everybody else has a mortgage. Everybody else has a financed loan and credit card debt, and this is what my friends are doing. And this is blah blah blah. But that isn't normal. And I'd highly recommend people to do this, to cost cutting, and then start focusing on things that can make them money, like buying passive income investments, because it actually snowballs. What happens is, and what happened to my wife and I, is we did go through those hard times of cutting and living like poor people pretty much. But then once the mortgage was paid off, it like unleashed things. Because you imagine all of a sudden
Right.
the 2,500 to 3,000 a month that was going to pay off this mortgage, that thing just went straight into buying investments. And
Exactly.
that's when things just kind of avalanched. And we went from, okay, we're financially free, but still driving a 2003 Nissan Altima, to fast forward 4 years. And now, we fly first class everywhere with us, a family of five.
And you've been to 18 countries
Yeah, and with children
with
too. So
children.
we paid extra to accommodate them. Obviously, I could have done the easy tour, but we actually, when like the kids, we were in Italy and we wanted to see the Vatican. I'm not Catholic or anything, but I wanted to see the Vatican, and we paid a little extra and we waited till the doors closed. So it was just us and the security guards all by ourselves in the Sistine Chapel taking pictures with the kids, completely empty, just us and two guards. And I'll tell you a funny story real quick about that. Hopefully, I don't want to. I'm not going to offend anybody, but when we got to see the Pope's elevator, and the Pope's elevator, it opens up. It's completely red inside with a black dragon. And I
Oh
told the
my
security
goodness.
guard who laughed. I was like, guys, if we're trying to not have conspiracy theories, this is not good. Like, I'm not even into that. I don't even know anything about that kind of stuff. But I was like, man, this is like Jesus. I mean, excuse me, pardon me, but like, don't have red elevators with black dragons if you're trying to avoid conspiracy theories.
Yes, especially with some of what the Pope has been doing and saying
Yeah,
lately. It's like, okay, this is not a good look.
no.
And I'm kind of glad that you touched on that, because I wanted to ask, because part of what's happening, if we look around, Daniel, realistically at the moral decay, what's
Wow.
going on in our society, and you had mentioned going to the Vatican, and I wanted to ask you how important your spiritual life is in your investing life.
That's a very good point you bring up, because I think everybody should want to align their beliefs with their investments and the things they care about. And it is shocking when you think about the blind investing many of us have done. I mean, I'm certainly guilty of it, where you throw money at a mutual fund or a stock, and it turns out that a lot of companies like Amazon are mistreating their workers, or we know Nike back in its heyday mistreating workers. I mean, I try to focus on things that are good for my community and good for my country. So I often love investing. I mean, I love this thing with these opportunity zones with the recent tax bill, where we can actually go into a lot of places that have been destroyed by local politicians and subsidies, and really make some strategic investments in them. It reminds me of Matt Johnson. He wanted to open up a Starbucks in the ghetto of LA, and the Starbucks CEO and founder said, "No way, it won't work." And not only did it work, but now there's hundreds of them, and they become places where people can meet and have coffee and have some normalcy. So I'm a big
Exactly.
investor into things that can help the community.
I'm all about that as well. And our time is running a little bit short, but I've got to get this in. And passive income portfolio. This is something that you're very high on, that your book speaks to directly. But can you give us the thumbnail sketch of what you mean by passive income portfolio?
I mean, everybody listening to this, imagine going to the mailbox and there's a check waiting for you, and that happens weekly, and it becomes a lifestyle and a habit. And what I tell people is when you buy passive income, these are investments that pay you income. It's very simple. It's one of the most important disciplines I'm teaching my children. We have a big chart of financial disciplines, and at the very top, it says only buy assets that cash flow. It means it has to bring you money. So the easiest one for people that they understand is a rental property that you would make money on. It's a hard asset. It's real estate, and it's paying you a yield. But this goes for businesses. This goes for private funds that invest in all kinds of properties. There's a lot of these crowd-funded REITs now. There's also old money ones too, out there as well, that you can have access to, and we discuss them in the book. And imagine owning a fractional share of a JW Marriott or a brand new Walgreens building, because no matter what happens in our economy over the next few years here, next 10 years, I can tell you this. Judging by what happened in the Soviet Union and Germany and Japan, I was just in Hiroshima last week. Things do go on. Life will go on. And
Yes.
it's funny. My son actually, he had bought a Miradani and Keith Neumeier's gold stocks, and he was mad because they were down like 50%. He met him. I was like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, and he had the perfect solution. And I was laughing. I was like, this probably marks the bottom of the gold market. And maybe it did, because it was in March. And he goes, buy me the company that produces all the toilet paper. And that's Kimberly Clark. And I was like, man, you know what? That's smart. And I didn't think about that. I was like, but you know what? I don't care what our financial circumstances are in. Everybody's going to wake up and want to buy some toilet paper the next day.
Yes, they
Everybody's
are.
talking toilet paper. And but it's in specifically passive income. I just want to say this: the rich focus on preservation and income, and that's buying things that, yes, you may have volatility, but as long as it's producing income and it's safe, it's worth owning. The middle class and the poor, we have been conditioned to gamble, to buy things that we hope will go up. We hope the 401k goes up. We hope that the gold stock goes up. We need to refocus 90% of our efforts on buying things that send you money, either on a monthly or quarterly basis. Do that. Watch what happens to your life over a year. Maybe it's small at first. Maybe $50 comes in a month and you're only able to pay the water bill like I was. But eventually those good decisions compound. That sustainable lifestyle and investing compound. And within 5 years, I guarantee you, half of your lifestyle may be paid. Or maybe, like my wife and I, the whole thing will be paid with passive income.
I love it. That is so important. And I just can't encourage people enough. Please go get Don't Save for Retirement, a Millennial's Guide to Financial Freedom. And Daniel, you gave out a link early on in the
Yeah, I would
interview.
love for your listeners to go to futuremoneytrends.com/save. They can read the introduction and the first chapter for free. And then if they decide they like it, there'll be a link there for them to go to Amazon and purchase the book.
I love it. I mean, and I can encourage you guys. I'll put the link in the description below. So take advantage of it. And Daniel, this has been really incredible. And I really hope that I can get you back on again before in the not too distant future, because as I said in the beginning, I really respect what you're doing, and you've been a great mentor to me over the years, and I respect you so much. So please visit futuremoneytrends.com, and like I said, link will be in the description box below. Daniel, is there anything you want to leave these guys with?
No, just thank you so much. And everybody, just stay prudent and don't lose focus on what is important to you in your life.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.